Muted. It's not showing.
Yeah.
For folks just entering the room, please ensure that your microphones are muted and your cameras are disabled.
I think I'm just in case. There we go. Thank you so much.
Again, good morning and welcome. For disclosure purposes, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be getting started in the next couple of minutes. For folks that have already joined the webinar, please make sure that your microphone is on mute and that your camera is disabled. In this environment, when multiple cameras are enabled, the network can start to lag, and we want to make sure that we prevent as many technical difficulties as possible. So please ensure that your microphone remains muted and that your camera remains disabled. Next, for folks that have not entered information into the chat area, because counties did not have to register in advance for today's webinar, in order to capture your county's attendance, at this time, please enter your name, your title, and county's name into the chat area. Again, this will ensure that your county receives credit for attendance today. So please take about 30 seconds to 45 seconds to enter your name, your title, and county's name in the chat area. Also, please ensure that your camera is disabled and your microphone is muted. There will be designated times throughout today's presentation for Q&A, so please do not utilize the chat option at all other than placing your name, your title, and county's name into the chat area at this time. There will be times that the chat area will be open for Q&A. The facilitator will notify when Q&A sessions begin and when the chat area can be accessed. Any information placed in the chat area is viewable to all participants that are online today. Lastly, today's webinar and PowerPoint deck will be published to the DHB website before the end of this month. Hopefully before the end of this month. I will make sure that a notification will be sent to all counties once it is made available. So since the time is about 3 minutes after 10 and it appears that most folks have entered the room, I do want to say one more time, please ensure that your cameras are disabled and your microphones are muted. And please enter your name, your title, and your county's name in the chat area. And please do not utilize the chat area after that until the facilitator opens the floor for Q&A. At this time, I would like to introduce our Associate Director of OCPI, Betty Dumas Beasley, who will provide the official welcome to today's webinar. Good morning, Betty.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Medicaid Accuracy Improvement Plan webinar today. So glad to have you all join us. You're going to be in for a treat today. The staff presenting has been very successful in working with counties to improve the county's Medicaid accuracy rate. Ensuring applicants and beneficiaries are receiving the benefits entitled to, and to get the essential services to improve the health, safety, and well-being of all North Carolinians. This is the mission of DHHS, and we share that mission with you because by working together, we can bring improved quality, which allows us all to begin to see the mission turn into a vision. Your support and your commitment affects your staff, your residents, and the Medicaid dollars flowing in your county through providers, which affects your county economics. Here are where you might have been thinking, boy, my small piece affects all of that by determining Medicaid eligibility determinations. Yes, your piece is essential to the Medicaid program running effectively and efficiently. So great job, you guys, for being on this webinar, wanting to see improvement in the quality of your Medicaid applications and redeterminations. So I welcome you again to a dynamite presentation by highly trained staff who are committed to see your success and work with your staff to provide what you need in order to be successful. So again, welcome, and I turn it back over to Janelle. I look forward to the presentation today. Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you, Betty. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to today's webinar, the Accuracy Improvement Plan for RHEDA Cycle 2 Counties. My name is Janelle Berkey-Marable with the Office of Compliance and Program Integrity. Assisting with today's presentation are two representatives from the AIP team. That's Autumn Johnson and Bridget Brewington. They may be waving to you. Also, today's webinar could not be successful without our other team members, and that is Pam Cooper and Paula Taylor, who are assisting behind the scenes today with some logistics. So a huge thank you and a shout out to Pam and Paula. So here are today's talking points. Today, we will briefly discuss RHEDA Cycle 2 standings, which will include some statistical data and a resource to reference after today's webinar. Next, a detailed overview of the AIP process will be shared, which will include the initial joint meeting with key stakeholders, the AIP development and approval process, the phases of implementation, immersion, and monitoring of the plan, auditing of cases, the case correction process when applicable, and what defines the successful closeout or extension of an AIP. We will also cover your county's AIP timeline. We will give some definitive dates for you to note, so please have pen and paper available. Please feel free, if you have a smartphone, to take a picture of the slides if that is helpful to you. We will also share some lessons learned from Cycle 1 AIP counties that I think will be extremely helpful for you. We will also provide guidance on the importance of internal controls in your county's Medicaid program, along with how to assess the need for the controls and how to implement them for success. So we are pretty confident as you walk away today, you will be well informed on the AIP process. You will know what is expected and what is expected from each of us, the county and the state. RHEDA Cycle 2 standings. In calendar year 2020, 35 counties were audited under the RHEDA audit, your county being one of them. 9 counties were successful with meeting both accuracy standards, achieving at least a 96.8% or higher with both negative and active actions. The remaining counties either met one or had challenges in both of the standards. At the bottom of the pie chart, I have referenced the legislative link where you can access reports. This would include a narrative of the data or the statistical data for RHEDA Cycle 1 counties, the RHEDA Cycle 1 audit. Unfortunately, Cycle 2 reporting has not yet been published. I wanted to mention the common error trend throughout the RHEDA audit. And when I say that, I'm referencing cycles 1 and 2 and the current cycle, cycle 3, is as a state, we are denying or terminating beneficiaries who are entitled to Medicaid benefits. That is the overall trend. That is what is sticking out the most from the RETA audit. So that is something to think about as you start to develop and implement your plans. So as you see, you are not alone in this process. The AIP team, the state, we have learned a lot from the process in cycle 1. Working in partnership has given a different perspective to the state and to the counties. We have gained insight from one another. We built trust. We worked diligently and learned each other's needs. And because of this shift, we have been able to achieve the desired results and to have the results be sustainable. The AIP team hopes to duplicate this with your county as we work in partnership. So enough for me. Let me go ahead and introduce Autumn Johnson, AIP rep and analyst. Autumn has a wealth of experience in the Medicaid program, especially within the adult programs. Autumn was a supervisor in Wilkes County before joining the state and has been a tremendous asset since onboarding with us. Good morning, Autumn.
Good morning, Janelle, and thank you. Can everyone hear me all right? If so, Pam and Paula, could you give me a thumbs up, please? Great. Good morning and welcome. As Janelle stated, my name is Autumn Johnson, and I am one of the AIP Quality Assurance Analysts who will be working with the counties. In this section of the PowerPoint, we will discuss the initial joint meetings with key stakeholders and the required representatives who must attend the joint meetings. The meetings will be held virtually at this time via Microsoft Teams. Beginning with the county, it is required that the county DSS director, county DSS Medicaid leadership, county manager, county commissioner chair or their designee, and the DSS board chair or their designee be present during the meeting. The state representatives required to attend are the Office of Compliance and Program Integrity's AIP lead, the AIP representative, and the operational support team representative for each county. If for some reason the key stakeholders are unavailable at the initial joint meeting, then the meeting will need to be rescheduled. Now, let's look at the roles and responsibilities during the joint meetings. OCPI will schedule and facilitate the meetings with each individual county. During those meetings, we will provide a brief presentation on the background of the RETA audit, which will include the county's individual audit results and error trends, as well as provide key reminders of how the AIP audit will work and flow with individual counties. OCPI provided the counties with a data analysis report showing error trends back in May 2021 with their RETA results. At the initial joint meetings with stakeholders, the county is to present an overview of the county's current corrective action plan, the measures that the county has implemented or will be implementing, and provide how the agency will measure the implementations and the results the agency expects from the implementations. The agency will submit a copy of the Accuracy Improvement Plan by using the AIP template during the initial joint meeting. The AIP template was provided to the agencies on October the 4th, 2021. OST will aid and support the county with case corrections during the AIP process and serve as subject matter experts for all Medicaid policy questions. Now, let's look at the stages of the AIP plan. During the next few slides, we will go over stages of the AIP plan. The AIP plan will include development, approval, implementation, immersion, and monitoring. We will also provide an example of an AIP template. So remember, the AIP plan will include development, approval, implementation, immersion, and monitoring. Now, who's ready to get started? First off, we have development. Almost immediately after the stakeholders meeting, the county's AIP representative will begin to meet with the county's DSS staff to assist with development of the AIP. During the development of the AIP, there will be monthly meetings with county DSS liaisons, DSS Medicaid staff, and the AIP representative. The county received the root cause analysis report via AirTrends back in May 2021 when the county received their RETA finalization letter. The county will use the AirTrend report to develop their AIP plan. The AIP representative will review the submitted AIP template for each county. They will assess the risk areas identified during the RETA audit, review the measures implemented or what will be implemented by the county, review progress and continue challenges. So, what are we looking for? What is working and what is not? What changes can be made to improve on internal controls to help eliminate or reduce errors and potential paybacks? What implementations or revisions and measurements can be used to assist the county with sustaining the federal required accuracy rate of 96.8%? So something to think about when you develop your AIP plan. Ask who, what, how, and when. Who? Who made the error? Recognize error trends within the agency that have been identified during your second-party reviews. Is it unit-specific, individual-specific, or potentially intake or recertification-specific? What? What caused the error to happen? Was it misinterpretation of policy, a keying error, or possibly a training error? How? How can we incorporate measures to eliminate the error? And when? When will the agency follow up to see if measures put in place are working to eliminate the errors? So just remember, ask who, what, how, and when. Next, we will discuss the AIP approval. The AIP will need to include a list of identified errors. Remember, these are the error trends that were provided to the county back in May 2021. The agency should list responsible staff and their role in the process, a date when the controls were implemented or when they will be implemented, a time frame to reassess the new controls and progress, internal monitoring of the plan, which can include your second-party reviews, and tools the county will use to document their progress. Once the county develops the AIP plan, the next step is submission of the plan. The county will submit the plan to your AIP representative by the due date given. Ensure the director has signed off on the AIP plan, as it is a requirement. Once the plan is received by the AIP representative, they will review the plan, give input feedback, and provide it to the OCPI lead to review and sign off on for approval. Next, let's look at an AIP example. So in looking at the AIP example, some counties may be familiar with this layout from the Timeliness Corrective Action Plan. If you notice here at the top of the page, there's a space for the local Department of Social Service where the agency will incorporate their agency name. Below that is the date in which the agency will fill in when submitting the AIP plan to their assigned AIP representative. Now, let's look at the accuracy standards. If you notice, there is a block for the state point of contact. This will be the agency's assigned AIP representative. Right beside that is a block for the county contact, where the county will input their county point of contacts. This is who we contact if there are questions regarding the AIP plan or if revisions need to be made to the plan. The county metrics block is where the agency will incorporate their final RETA results for each action. This includes the active, negative, and internal controls, also known as technical error rate. The county self-assessment is where the agency will summarize and give a self-assessment of reasons for failure to meet the accuracy standards. The agency should review the error trends and data analysis reports that were provided to their agency when developing the accuracy improvement plan. The next section leads us to current initiatives. In this area, the agency will provide the initiatives, improvements currently underway to address accuracy issues, steps identified through the development process, by using the who, what, how, and when. You will use those to determine the current initiative steps that you have already taken in months prior to the implementation of the AIP plan. What action has the agency put into place since the RETA audit? When were they put into place? How is the agency going to monitor the actions? And are those actions working? If not, what actions can be done different to help the agency? Next, let's look at the action plan. The action plan provides a key goal. The key goal for each agency is to meet the 96.8% accuracy standard rate for eligibility, approval, and denial terminations. Strategies and actions for improvement is where the agency will list each strategy action from the error trend analysis report. You will notice here in the strategy action number 1 example that we used failure to evaluate for all Medicaid programs prior to disposition. The AIP template and plan should incorporate each strategy action in which the agency acquired during the RETA audit. Once the agency has listed the strategy action, they will need to incorporate a desired outcome. This includes associated metrics. Where was the error identified? The targeted dates and checkpoints includes targeted completion. What did the county do when the error was received? If training, what type of training, and when was it conducted? How is the county going to monitor the training to ensure it was effective? The next column shows strategy action owner. The agency will show what actions are taken and who in the agency is responsible for the actions. Resources. Resources needed to assist the county should be documented. This can include OST, manual references, and the Learning Gateway. And lastly, state actions support required. What does the county need from the state to be successful? How can we, as the state, provide support and resources to assist the counties for success? Now that we have reviewed the AIP template, I know you all are thinking, gosh, can we please get a copy of this? Well, never fear. The webinar from today will hopefully be posted on the DHB website by the end of the month, and the AIP template example will be included. Now that we have our AIP plan developed and approved, let's look at the next steps that involve implementation, immersion, and monitoring. The implementation of the plan is when the county incorporates measures outlined in the AIP plan defined by the root cause analysis. The root cause analysis report was provided to the county via the RETA error trend report back in May. The agency will be given time
Excuse me, Autumn. Ms. Glover, can you please ensure that your camera is muted? Ms. Glover, Michelle Glover, ensure that your microphone is muted and that your camera is muted. I'm sorry, Autumn.
Okay, we'll just start over with this slide. So we're just going to talk about the implementation, immersion, and monitoring. So with the implementation of the plan, that is when the county incorporate measures outlined in the AIP plan defined by the root cause analysis. The root cause analysis report was provided to the county via the RETA error trend report back in May. The agency will be given time to implement measures in which they have outlined and stated in their AIP plan to help eliminate the errors. Immersion. Immersion of the plan is when the county immerses the AIP plan's measures to allow adequate time to correct and prevent future errors. Each county will have a minimum of 2 months to implement their plans prior to the AIP audit beginning. The county should begin the immersion process once the AIP plan has been approved. Monitoring is done to reassess the AIP measures put into place within the stated timeframes to ensure the objectives are met. Now, what happens when an error is found or the AIP appears to not be on track to meet the objectives? If this happens, then revisions to the AIP plan should be made immediately and a revised AIP template submitted to the AIP representative for review. Once the AIP plan is approved, it will not be reapproved, just updated. Now, let's look at the AIP progress, review, and updates. Each month, when the monthly RETA AIP meeting is held, the county is responsible to provide the AIP representative with the AIP progress, review, and updates form located on the AIP template. Remember, this template was provided to the county on October the 4th, 2021. The county is to list each strategy action that is being measured, just like it is listed on the AIP plan. The agency will access the target improvement and provide updates on where each strategy action stands. Let's look at the metrics. The agency will input the target goal, list the status at the previous review, and incorporate what is currently being done to meet standards for each strategy action. The agency will then give the status of each strategy action. Has the status been achieved with the implementation in place? If not, is it in progress with target to meet the strategy on schedule? Or is it in progress but behind to meet the strategy? Or maybe the agency hasn't started to implement the new strategy or action. Thinking on the strategy action in place, for the specific error, can it be removed from the AIP plan? Meaning the agency is meeting the standard, or does the action need to be revised? Possible reevaluation of the goal? Does the agency need to continue to implement or monitor because the action in place seems to be working? If the strategy action isn't working for the agency, what new process or internal controls can the agency implement to reach the desired outcome? When will they begin? How will the agency monitor the new actions to see if they are working? This section will be completed for each strategy action listed on the AIP each month. This can be completed by the DSS Medicaid leadership, but it is required that the director sign off monthly. If you notice at the top of the page, there's a place for the director's signature. The agency staff completing the form will initial and date when completed. Again, as I mentioned, this will be due monthly to the AIP representative for each strategy action goal. This concludes this section. Does anyone have any questions about the initial joint meeting with key stakeholders, the AIP development and approval, or implementation, immersion, and monitoring of the AIP plan?
At this time, if anyone has questions for the sections that Autumn has covered, please enter those questions in the chat area, and we will do our best to answer those questions.
Okay, it appears we don't have any questions, so we will continue next with the AIP auditing, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Bridget Brewington. Bridget comes to the state from Sampson County, where she was a family and children's Medicaid supervisor and adult Medicaid supervisor, working specifically with private living. Bridget provides a vast knowledge of Medicaid experience and has been a tremendous asset since joining our team. Bridget, take it away.
Thank you, Autumn. Good morning. My name is Bridget Brewington, Quality Assurance Analyst that will be working with the Cycle 2 AIP counties. Over the next few slides, we will be discussing the auditing process, successfully completing your AIP, and if your AIP will need an extension. Okay, so first let's look at the auditing process. So you've got your template completed, it's been approved, and you're immersed in your AIP. What happens next? That's when the auditing begins. The AIP will look very similar to the auditing process that you experienced during the RETA audit. Active and negative actions are being monitored depending on which action is under the monitoring. There are some counties that were not successful in only one action, and we do have some counties that were not successful in both actions. 7,000 AIP forms are being used. Again, these forms look a lot like the forms from the RETA audit. Just like the RETA, prior month's actions are subject to be auditing. At the beginning of each month, 5 cases per action will be reviewed during your county's AIP. So if your AIP is for active or negative actions only, 5 cases will be pulled. But if your AIP is for both active and negative actions, you will have 5 active actions and 5 negative actions, which is a total of 10 cases that will be pulled. You were given 3 work days to upload any supporting documentation into NCFAST. If an eligibility error is found, you will be given 3 work days to either concur or rebut those findings. If an error is found, you are given 10 calendar days to initiate those case corrections. Please keep in mind that the state is mandated to recoup overpayments. So overpayments will remain the same during the AIP and will be a charge back to the county. So now let's look at how we can successfully complete our AIP, or if our AIP would need an extension. If the county has met the 96.8% accuracy rate for 3 consecutive months, and you were able to sustain those accuracy rates without a state monitored AIP, guess what? We have successfully completed our AIP. So what if the 96.8% accuracy rate is not met for 3 consecutive months? Then the AIP will continue until the 96.8% accuracy rate is met for 3 months. So now let's look at a few examples. Completion of your AIP. So let's say that the county was not successful in both active and negative actions. Active and negative cases were monitored for January, February, and March of 2022. The 96.8% accuracy rate was met for 3 consecutive months. It also appears that the internal controls and best practices that your county has put in place will enable you to sustain the accuracy rate. Guess what? Your AIP has been successfully completed. A letter of completion will be issued to your county director and all key stakeholders. So let me just kind of summarize real quick about completion of the AIP. We've got 3 consecutive months of meeting the 96.8% accuracy rate. We've got some good internal controls and best practices in place that will ensure that we will continue to meet this accuracy rate. This is how our AIP will be successful. Now, let's look at an example. If you are not successful in meeting the 96.8% accuracy rate for 3 months. Again, just like the example before, both active and negative actions are being monitored. Active actions for January, February, and March of 2022 have met the 96.8% accuracy rate, and we've got some good internal controls and best practices in place that's going to enable you to sustain these accuracy rates. Then your active actions have successfully completed the AIP. Now let's look at the negative actions. Your negative actions for January and February did meet the 96.8% accuracy rate. However, in March, there was an eligibility error and the 96.8% accuracy rate was not met. This means that the AIP will continue for negative actions only, starting with April actions being the first month of the next possible 3 consecutive months of completion. Now, I know that was a lot right there, so let me just kind of break it down for you here. We got active and negative actions that we're looking at. The active actions met the 96.8% accuracy rate for 3 consecutive months. Our negative actions met the accuracy rate for 2 consecutive months, but that was January and February, but in March, we did not. Therefore, your negative actions will continue to be audited until the 96.8% accuracy rate is met for 3 months. Keep in mind that if your AIP extends for more than 6 months, OCPI will conduct a follow-up meeting with all key stakeholders, including county administration, to evaluate your AIP plan and procedures. Now, I know that was a lot. It was a lot. So, do we have any questions on how the cases will be audited?
At this time, if there's questions for Bridget regarding the processes she just covered, please enter those questions in the chat area.
If you have any questions about completion of your AIP or extending, if your AIP has to be extended, also put those in or ask those. Keep in mind that for you to successfully complete your AIP, we've got to meet that accuracy rate for 3 consecutive months. Pam or Paula, have there been any questions?
No questions.
Okay, well, then I'll move on to talk about the AIP timeline for Cycle 2 counties. With Cycle 1 counties, we learned that by splitting the AIP counties into 2 groups, that we were more available to the counties. By being more available to the counties, this allowed us to successfully build some very strong relationships and focus our attention on the county's needs. With that being said, we have formed two groups for Cycle 2 counties. We've got a Group A, and then we've got a Group B. Now, let's look at each group and their timeline. Here's Group A counties. We've got Allegheny, Bladen, Casual, Cherokee, Currituck, Dare, Davison, Halifax, Person, Scotland, and Washington. Next week, an email will go out to the county directors, DSS Medicaid leadership, the county managers, commissioner chair, and the DSS board chair to schedule a meeting in November. As Autumn stated earlier, at that meeting, we, OCPI, will be presenting the ERA Trends report and along with your county's RETA results. The county will present their current measures that have been put in place or that they will be putting in place. Also during November, we, QA and the county, will be working very close together to develop and approve your AIP plan. Once your AIP plan has been developed and approved and the county is immersed in their plan, in February of 2022, auditing will begin. Like we said earlier, prior month's actions will be audited. So we're going to be looking at the actions for January of 2022. If the county successfully meets that 96.8% accuracy rate for, again, 3 consecutive months, your AIP could potentially be completed by April of 2022. Now let's look at Group B. Group B counties, we have Alexander, Anson, Avery, Bertie, Burke, Cumberland, Hoke, Lenoir, McDowell, Moore, Nash, Polk, Vance, Watauga, and Wilson. Again, next week an email will go out to the county directors, DSS Medicaid leadership, the county manager, commissioner chair, and the DSS board member chair to schedule a meeting for December. As Autumn stated earlier, we will be presenting the ERA Trend reports and your individual county RETA results. The county will present the current measures that they have in place or will be putting in place. Also in December, we'll be working closely together with the county to develop and approve their AIP. Once the AIP has been developed and approved, the county will immerse in their plan. And in May of 2022, that's when the monitoring again begins. Again, just like with the RETA, we're looking at prior month's actions. So we will be looking at the actions for April of 2022. If the county successfully meets the 96.8% accuracy rate for 3 consecutive months, the AIP could potentially be completed by July of 2022. Now, do we have any questions about Group A or Group B or the timelines?
Again, if anyone has questions for Bridget regarding the AIP timelines, please enter those questions in the chat area.
Paula or Pam, have there been any questions?
No questions at this time.
Okay, next, what we're going to look at some lessons learned during the Cycle 1 AIP process. Like we had stated before, we had 21 counties from Cycle 1 that were under an AIP. Out of those 21 counties, 17 counties have successfully completed their AIP. Of those 17, 13 counties completed their AIP within 3 months. This is some really exciting news here. This shows you that, number one, you can be successful within the first 3 months. It also shows you that this goal can be achievable and the AIP works. Some of the lessons learned during Cycle 1 when you start to develop your AIP, we've learned that we need input that you will need input from all levels of your Medicaid staff, from your line staff to your lead workers, to your supervisors, to your program managers, to your training staff, your quality staff. Everyone's input is important. Relying on the data that is available to the counties. What is your second party review showing? Are you showing the same errors that were detected during the RETA audit? Drilling down on the root cause. What is causing the error? Is it the same worker making the error? Maybe they need some one-on-one training. Is the error occurring in a unit as a whole? Is it an adult Medicaid unit that's having this error, or is it both adult Medicaid and family and children having the same error? Really drill down on the root causes of the error. Monitor your best practices and internal controls. Best practices and internal controls should be evaluated often to determine if they're still working or if they're still needed. Get feedback from your line staff, your lead workers, your supervisors when you're evaluating the internal controls or best practices that you have in place. Keeping county administration in the know. Let your directors and your program managers and your supervisors know what's going on in your Medicaid program and how it's operating. For example, we found that with our quarter second partying that we have some concerns with X, Y, and Z. We've talked to our staff and we've determined that a refresher training is needed. After the refresher training, you know what? We have noticed that the concerns that we have with X, Y, and Z have been eliminated. We've also noticed that 100% quality check is not something that will sustain results. The county really needs to implement quality checks that have been achievable. We all know that with everyday operations that it is almost impossible to review each and every case that is disposition that your county has completed. Something also to think about when looking at your agency structure, it has been very beneficial when the supervisor is able to manage the staff and not be so absorbed in the casework. And most importantly, if you need help, ask. We're all here to work together for everyone to move forward to meeting this 96.8% accuracy rate. All right, do we have any questions about the lessons learned during Cycle 1 AIP counties? Again, if you have any questions, just type them in the chat. We'll be more than glad to answer those for you. Pam or Paula, do we have any questions?
There's no questions at this time.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back over to Janelle, and she's going to provide some information about internal controls. Janelle?
Thank you, Bridget. Now that information has been presented on the stages of the plan, let's talk internal controls. What are internal controls and why are they so important to your county's Medicaid program? The biggest takeaway from Cycle 1 counties was that internal controls were not only necessary for compliance, but how these controls were implemented and introduced into the program were pivotal. Purpose. Internal controls achieve effective and efficient operations. And the way this is achieved is by making the internal controls or the measures implemented a standard, a requirement, part of the rule. Internal controls minimize and control risks within the Medicaid program. And what are those risks? Ensuring North Carolinians eligible for Medicaid are approved, and those who are not, or those who are denied or terminated, are done so timely. Internal controls minimize Medicaid overpayments charged back to your county. Lastly, internal controls identify deficiencies within the program, and this is done by monitoring the internal control. When internal controls are properly introduced, implemented, and monitored in a Medicaid program, the county will achieve the federally mandated accuracy standards, the 96.8%. Now let's visually walk through an example. Areta Cycle 1 County receives eligibility error findings based on income errors. The county analyzes the error and by drilling down, like Bridget says, determines the budgeting errors are isolated to the adult PLA Medicaid program. The county's lead workers, who are also the county's trainers, reach out to their OST representative for clarity in certain areas of the policy. Then the lead workers provide training. They provide a refresher training to the PLA adult Medicaid staff. They also provide a pre and post test. And this is a way to assess the effectiveness of their training. Next, the county implements a measure that PLA caseworkers complete a paper budget with each action, and the budget is uploaded into NCFAST. This measure is to ensure all countable income is captured, that the evidence and the budget are correct in NCFAST. Now, if there's a discrepancy, part of the internal control is the caseworker is to see their supervisor or lead worker for guidance. So remember, when an internal control is implemented, it becomes a requirement, a standard, no longer an option, but a rule. And in this case, the county must monitor that the caseworker is following the standard, using the budget sheet, uploading the worksheet into NCFAST, and seeking assistance if there's a discrepancy. In this case, the county is monitoring the standard when second-party reviews are conducted throughout the month. After 30 days of implementation, the county will assess the effectiveness of this measure to determine if the outcome, eliminating PLA budgeting errors, is being achieved. So as a reminder, this is an internal control that the county has implemented. This is now a county rule. This is not a state rule. This is not something the state would monitor. This is not something that the county would report as an internal control error on their second party quarterly reporting. Internal controls that the county implements are internal controls that the county must monitor. They're not a requirement of the state, but now a requirement of the county. So let's highlight the steps of this example we just walked through by reviewing the internal control model of detect, correct, and prevent. The first step in the internal control model is to detect the risk area or areas within the program. And this is usually done by quality control, the county's internal second-party reviews and targeted reviews. Also, risk can be identified from your staff. So it's very important for Medicaid staff to know that their input is not only needed, but is very valued. We have seen some counties have suggestion boxes made available to their staff. Risk can also be detected from key stakeholders, maybe soliciting input from your Medicaid customers, Medicaid providers, or perhaps surveying your APS social workers that handle guardianship clients that you have in common. Another example are audit results, analyzing case findings as they are made available to the county, along with finalized audit reports, including the RETA error trends and data analysis report. So as you can see, there are many ways to detect risk within the Medicaid program. After the risk has been detected, it is time to correct the risk. And this is done by providing retention to staff on the deficiencies identified. This includes the counties having an effective new hire training program to include mentorship and quality control for newly onboarded staff. Some state training resources include the Learning Gateway and job aids in NCFAST Help. Also, county-led refresher trainings are a great way to provide immediate retention to staff on the risks detected. We have seen some counties or some agencies use agency or program newsletters to highlight certain areas of eligibility, such as new policy, new technology features, and also important reminders when it comes to eligibility. Lastly, networking with other counties can be really a great plus when correcting risks. We have seen counties step up to assist other counties with training materials, QC tools, a multitude of various resources. Now that risks have been detected by analyzing data and corrected by providing retention, it's time to prevent the risk from reoccurring. It's time to eliminate the risk by implementing measures, those internal controls. Before any measure is implemented for use, staff must be made aware of the new or modified standard. Remember, this is now a requirement, not an option, but a rule. As in our example, the PLA budget sheet became a requirement. Some examples we have seen implemented recently have been working documents, eligibility checklists, deadline calendars, and standards when uploading documents into NCFAST. And how did the county know the PLA budget worksheet was eliminating the income and budgeting errors? By providing quality assurance that the worksheet was completed, uploaded into NCFAST, and if there was a discrepancy, a lead worker or supervisor was sought for assistance. So remember, when a measure is implemented, it must be monitored and reassessed within the timeframes to determine if the risk is on track to eliminating, to determine if the risk is on track to be eliminated. Now that we've detected, corrected, and prevented the risk from reoccurring, we now have achieved our favorable outcomes, meeting the federal requirements, the accuracy standards when determining Medicaid eligibility. We have also achieved, probably, determining not only Medicaid eligibility accurately, but also timely. Medicaid overpayments are being eliminated. Some counties have even reported by implementing internal controls, their caseloads have become more equitable, more manageable. Staff have become more engaged. Morale appears to be up, and staff are aware of the expectations, and the expectations are being met. So as the county develops their accuracy improvement plan, remember to assess the need for internal controls within the Medicaid program by using this model of detecting, correcting, and preventing to eliminate the risks. Before we open the floor to our final Q&A session and close out for today, just a few reminders of our next steps. We will be reaching out this month to schedule the key stakeholder meetings. Remember, Group A, those meetings will take place in November, and Group B, meetings in December. We will start to coordinate those meetings and schedule them next week for, again, Group A for November and Group B for December. Shortly after the stakeholder meetings, the counties and the AIP representatives will get to know each other rather quickly and begin to coordinate those monthly meetings and start to help with the development and implementation and immersion of the plan. So before we close out today, we want to make sure that we give everyone that has joined us today the opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions for us of any part of today's PowerPoint of the AIP process, please enter those questions in the chat area. I see Vicki Smith has a question. I see that her county is consolidated. The advisory chair, should the advisory chair attend as we do not have a board, or should the Health and Human Services Director attend? Should the advisory chair attend as we do not have a board, or should the director attend? Is the direct, Ms. Smith, if you can enter in the chat, is the Director of Health and Human Services also the Director of Social Services of your department? No. Okay. So yes, it would be the Director of your agency and the advisory chair. Ms. Smith, that's a good question. Let me consult with Betty and look back to see what we did with cycle 1, just to make sure that we're staying consistent. I want to make sure I'm giving the right information. So that's a great question. Let me table that, and I will make sure to include that question on the fact sheet when we go ahead and upload the PowerPoint presentation onto the DHB website. Other questions? I do not see any other questions. Paula, Pam, have we missed any?
No, ma'am.
On behalf of the AIP team, I would like to thank everyone for joining today's webinar and participating and being engaged. On the screen in front of you is our directors, our associate directors' contact, along with the AIP team's information on the way that you can contact us. Do not hesitate to reach out to us with any questions or concerns. This is truly a partnership. And again, thank you for joining us. Thank you to the AIP team for a great job. And again, any questions, please reach out, and I hope everyone has a great day.